He wants like one kind of or I'm going to move stations all the way. No, I can do the 7. And maybe, I mean, a little breeze. I mean, that's what right does my voice. Okay, but you go with your we didn't have rain, so we did.
This thing gets smaller every day I see it. You add knots, you're going to see.
Look at me when he
Right.
Some of them survive. Most of it's getting on time. That's what I one.
It is a lot of work, and I plan to
Good to see you, man.
So it's been a month. They just don't have property. Well, what they did is it's about this long. It's from the sidewalk.
Good morning. What a beautiful first day of the week. I think the clock up there needs a new battery. It's got us at 8:44 a.m. So. hopefully, as long as the sermon, whoever does the sermon this morning doesn't go by that clock, we'll be here for a long time. Okay, we are starting a new quarter this morning, summer quarter, and the title is The Testimony of Faithful Witnesses. You could say it's a character study. We will be in Judges today, but just this one lesson. Judges, last time we did a series on Judges was fall of 2021. Before that, it was summer of 2017. So we have done it 2 times within the last 10 years or so. Okay, so here's the layout. Here's the road ahead for this quarter. Different unit for different months. In June, the month of June, we will be in the Old Testament. And for the months of July and August, we will be in the New Testament with more familiar names there. Today, June 7th, we will be in Judges, and we will be with Deborah, or the Hebrew, her name is Deborah, the dutiful judge. Some of these descriptions are kind of unusual, or kind of, they had to do something, but I think all of the judges were dutiful. Hannah, the faithful supplicant. First thing I did with that lesson was look up the word supplicant, and I believe that was the first time in my life I ever used that word. Not a word we use in daily conversation. Then Jonathan and David, that's a familiar story. Our kids study that. And then Amos. What do you know about Amos? Somebody says, tell me what you know about Amos. How long would that be? Okay, so we will go to July. Faithful witnesses say yes to Jesus. The believing centurion. July, we will have Curtis Hartshorn, Bible Talk TV, with us. He usually comes in the summer. Last time he was here in August of last year. Zacchaeus, the tax collector. The wee little man is how we know. Mary, the loyal mother. That's unusual. I would have said Mary, the mother of Jesus. Thomas, we know doubting Thomas, the hesitant believer. Stephen, the first martyr, first Christian martyr. Saul of Tarsus went from a prosecutor of the church to the greatest evangelist of the church. And then Lydia, of course, we know Lydia, she helped people. She died and was raised to life. So good morning, everyone here. Good morning to everyone on YouTube and Zoom. And good morning, Ed Duncan. We have Ed Duncan here this morning. So good morning to you. Nice to have you with us this morning. Okay, the context of our lesson in Judges. When you hear the name judge, we think of a magistrate, someone in a courtroom. He comes into the courtroom, and they say, all rise for the honorable so-and-so, and then he's got the gown on and everything, and he is there to keep order in the courtroom. Sometimes he will render the verdict, and sometimes there will be a jury to render a verdict, and then he makes sure everything goes on, and then he pronounces sentence according to guidelines after the jury reaches a verdict. So when we hear the noun judge, we think of a magistrate who renders legal decisions in the court of law. Old Testament use of the term goes beyond that. It could be a leader. There are 17 mentions of judge or forms of judge, judgment in the book of Judges, but none of them are nouns. Of course, judged and judging. When you see the word judge, it's actually a verb participle rather than a noun. In the Hebrew, if you read it in the English, it's like a noun. The book of Judges uses that word judge to describe a leader who renders decisions for the nation of Israel. The nation of Israel, they've come out of Egypt. They've taken over the land through the leadership of Joshua, and now they're on their own. The word is used, judge, to describe officials who make legal decisions in civil and criminal cases. Prophets, military commanders, and even the Lord himself could be considered a judge. But in all instances, the judge and later the king would be expected to lead in accordance with the will of God. In the book of Deuteronomy, God laid out instructions and guidelines for when they do have a king. So we'll do a little bit of an introduction here. Then the Lord raised up judges. This was the Lord doing this. Like in the book of Acts, it says, the Lord added to the church those who were being saved. The Lord was the one who raised up the judges. They saved them out of the hands of the raiders that were raiding them. Later on, it would be full enemies that were mistreating them. They would not listen, yet they would not listen to their judges, but prostituted themselves to other gods and worshiped other gods. Not a good thing. Remember Joshua? Choose you this day whom you will serve, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Unfortunately, not many people, not all people followed that advice. They quickly turned from their ways of their ancestors, specifically Moses and Joshua, the latest ones who led them, who had been obedient to the Lord's commands. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for them, he was with the judge, guided the judge, and saved him out of the hands of the enemies as long as the judge lived. This was not a position that went from father to son at this time. For the Lord relented because of their groaning under those who oppressed and afflicted them. Sort of a similar situation to the time of the Israelites in Egypt, where their deliverer was not a judge, but it was Moses. But when the judge died, the people returned to ways even more corrupt than those of their ancestors, following other gods, serving and worshiping them. They refused to give up their evil ways and evil and stubborn. So what would the Lord do? He got angry. He was kindled against, the anger of the Lord was kindled like a burning fire against Israel. And he said, because the people have transgressed my covenant that I commanded their fathers and have not obeyed my voice, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations that Joshua left behind when he died. So Joshua didn't get rid of all their enemies. There were still some left. Why did he do this? To test them. Because this people, whenever you see the term this people in Scripture, it generally refers to people against God, enemies. So he's calling his own people, this people. He left them in order to test Israel. That would be a repeated phrase here to see whether they would walk in the way of the Lord as their fathers did or not. Spoiler alert, it's the not, unfortunately. So the Lord left behind those nations, not driving them out quickly, and he did not give them into the hand of Joshua even, who was a devout follower of the Lord. Now these are the nations he left behind to test Israel. I'll list those. And interesting why he did that. He did that in order to teach Israel about war, to teach them about war. Some of these people who are now living had not fought in battles, so he wanted to teach them about war, how to fight. So these are the nations, the 5 lords of the Philistines. You know about the Philistine cities, Ashdod, Gaza, those, the Canaanites, Sidonians, Hivites, and they were spread throughout pretty much the land of promise. They were there for testing Israel to know whether Israel would obey the commandments of the Lord, which he commanded. And we found out that no, they don't obey. So the people of Israel lived among Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Though those were 6 of the 7 nations mentioned in Deuteronomy, that they were to get rid of these people. They were not to make any covenants or treaties with them, and most of all, do not intermarry with these people. And what were they doing? And they took their daughters, and their daughters they took to themselves for wives, and their own daughters they gave to their sons, and they served their gods. So what God explicitly told them not to do in Deuteronomy under Moses, that's what they did. And we have this cycle of sin, which was covered both times we taught the book of Judges in the past 10 years. They did the evil in the eyes of the Lord. And those verses there in blue, you can see that passage, doing the evil, was mentioned so many times from the first time when Othniel was the judge until 13:1. That's when Jephthah was the judge. The Lord gave or sold them into the hands of the enemy, not because he didn't love them, but this is to discipline them. The Lord disciplines those he loves, and sometimes the discipline can be harsh. The Israelites then cried out to the Lord until 10:10. Jephthah. They stopped crying out to the Lord. They got numb to the oppression. They weren't doing anything. It's fine. You can oppress us. So after that, God sends Samson. And he caused trouble for the oppressors. So the oppressors, the Philistines, made it even harder on them. So then they cried out to the Lord. And then the Lord sent them, after Jephthah, he sent them Samson later. The Lord raised up a judge to save them. Then the land had rest for so many years, 40 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever. Then the judge died. And then the pattern starts over. Then you go back to the top. So it's a repeating cycle. So there it is in a graphical form. Top, Israelites do the evil. They're sorry. The Lord sells them into oppression. The Israelites then cry out to the Lord. Then he raises up a deliverer to save them. He gets rid of the enemies. They live good for a time, and then they do the evil again. So the downward spiral, here it is. Here's the first judge, Othniel, considered the best judge. He was actually contemporary of Caleb. He was the nephew and son-in-law of Caleb. Then we have Ehud. We typically know him as the left-handed judge. Then we have Deborah there, Gideon, Jephthah, Samson, and then we go down even further. The two highlighted in the dark, Gideon and Samson, those are highlighted because there's more time, more chapters in the Bible devoted to them. You could almost call them the major judges and the other one the minor judges. Gideon and Samson is what the book seems to concentrate on. There's a downward slope here of the judges and Israel. We got Othniel, said a good judge. Ehud, fairly good. Deborah and Barak, they pretty much go together. Deborah and Barak go together like Moses and Joshua. Deborah was the leader, Barak was the general. Then we have Gideon, he tested God. Jephthah, he made that vow and sacrificed his daughter. And then there's Samson. He was a roustabout. He had a penchant he loved the Philistine women. And it's interesting, the ones that are commended for their faith in Hebrews, they're not Othniel, Ehud, and Deborah. They're Barak, Gideon, Jephthah, and Samson. So Deborah is not commended for her faith in Hebrews. We have judges in 1 Samuel too, don't we? Eli and Samuel. How would you rate them? We don't know much about Eli. We know him pretty much as a high priest. And Samuel, we know quite a bit about Samuel. They each had their issues, though. Neither one of them were good parents. Maybe the position required so much of their time, they didn't spend time with their children. Eli had worthless sons. Samuel had dishonest sons. And it was because of dishonest sons of Samuel and him not taking care of them that Israel says, enough with the judges, we want a king. So 1 Samuel 8, 1 through 5, when Samuel became old, he made his sons judges over Israel. Bad mistake. Not a very discerning decision there. Yet his sons did not walk in his ways, but turned aside after gain. They took bribes and perverted justice. Then all the elders of Israel, the 12 tribes, gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah, where he lived, and said to him, behold, you are old. Well, yes, he was. Your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint for us a king to judge us like all the other nations. Judges 4, we'll get a little bit of an introduction. The names in Judges. The letter J. We know if we see a name Jose, what is it? Is it Josie? Or is it Jose? We know if we see a Hispanic man whose name is Jesus, we don't call him Jesus, right? We call him Jesus. Georgie is Jorge. So let's look at the letter J did not come into the English language until the 17th century. Relatively new, is an offshoot of the letter I. 17th century, actually introduced in the 16th century by an Italian. In the original printing of the 1611 KJV. Dick, did you get one of those?
I don't think so.
Okay. A little bit before your time?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, Jesus was spelled Jesus with an I. In the Greek, we have the letter Y. We have Yeshua and Yahweh. So, in our class, we got Jabin, but he's actually Yavin. And then we got, looks like Jael pronounced Yael, wild goat. It almost thinks like God, because Yah means God and El means God, but it's Yael. When I read a scripture preparing for study, you read it in one version, you read it, and then you listen to it in audio. And it just sounded strange to me to have her pronounce jail. So Sisera fled to jail, and he didn't get out alive. You know, her name sounds like a place of incarceration. Okay. And Deborah is Deborah, except you do that trill thing with the R, which I can't do. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, or the sight of the Lord, now that Ehud, the left-handed judge, was dead. So the Lord sold them into the hands of Yavin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hatzor. Sisera, the commander of his army, was based in Harosheth-Hagoyim. And we'll see on a map where these are. So we're all over the place here in this story, north and south. Again, the Israelites did, in the Hebrew, there's the evil. It's not translated in our English unless you got, here's the Young's literal translation. And the sons of Israel had to do the evil thing in the eyes of Jehovah when Ehud is dead. So this evil thing that Israel was doing. So what was the evil thing? Well, the scripture tells us what the evil thing is. It's breaking the first two of the 10 commandments. You know, if you don't want to do that. You don't want to break the 10 commandments. First one, have no other gods before me. You know, that includes worshiping no other gods by them as an entity, or it's not okay. Well, I worship God, but I'm going to worship these two. I want to get all my bases covered. No. God and God only. He's a jealous God. And the second thing is bowing down to these gods, bowing down to images. So we have the verse Judges 3:7a. The Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Well, what is the evil? 1, they forgot the Lord. Commandment number 1, they served the Baals and the Asherahs. Commandment number 2. So the evil was disobeying the first 2 of the 10 commandments. Now, could anything have predicted that evil? There's a recurring theme that the writer of Judges mentions, and it seems like he thinks, well, only if this happened, they wouldn't have done the evil. Well, what is that thing? What was the remedy for the evil? This is the final verse. In those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. If only we had a king, none of this bad stuff would happen. But if you see Judges 21:25, that's how the book of Judges ends. But we've got it for chapter 17, verse 6, chapter 18, verse 1, and chapter 19, verse 1. 19, verse 1 through 21, verse 25 is one common story in the book of Judges, and it's not a feel-good story. I think on intro to chapter 19, there should be a warning, caution, not suitable for all ages or something. I had a friend who told me that his son stopped going to church after reading the final 3 chapters of Judges. It is horrific. So would a king have helped? Here's the final 3 kings of the southern kingdom. This was the good kingdom, not like the northern kingdom. We have Jehoiakim, and Zedekiah. They reigned in Jerusalem, the holy city, Zion. All of them did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and their people followed them. So a king probably wouldn't have helped. And the worst of the worst, 9 total mentions in 2 Chronicles, the worst of the worst was Manasseh. And unfortunately, he had the longest reign. He reigned for 66 years, and he was the worst king. He was worse than the nations that they destroyed. So here's our summary. Israelites did evil, and the Lord sold them. Okay. Now, Jabin, Sisera, Javin's general, had 900 chariots fitted with iron and had truly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. And they cried to the Lord for help. I'm going to take my watch off here. The clock's not working, so I want to make sure I get through this. Okay, it's 5 till 10. Because he had 900 chariots fitted with iron and had cruelly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years, they cried to the Lord for help. Think this cruelly oppressing the Israelites. You think back to the time when the Israelites were slaves in Egypt. So it's not a good time here for the Israelites. But interestingly, this was happening while Deborah was their leader. She was a prophet and a leader, like Samson. Samson and Deborah were the only 2 leaders, the only 2 judges that were also a prophet. She was the wife of Lepidot, who we never hear of again. She was leading Israel at that time when this oppression was going on. She held court under palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel. Bethel means house of God. House of God. That was a place where Jeroboam set up an alternate place of worships after the divided kingdom so the people wouldn't go to Jerusalem. So she was in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites went up to her to have their disputes decided. So you could say she was almost like the Judge Judy of her day. She decided civil cases for people who had disputes against one another. These were not religious cases. Those would be settled by the priests. So she received a revelation or call from God. She sends for Barak, the son of Abinoam from Kadesh in Naphtali, and says to him, she gives him the word that the Lord presented to her. She says, the Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, go, take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun, and lead them up to Mount Tabor. Now remember this, she tells him, go, and what to do. Go and what to do. So he does that. So it's interesting, Deborah, she's down here, and then she calls for Barak up here. He's about 80 miles away if you take into account all the geographic features he's got to go. So he goes down there to talk to her, and then she tells him, go back to where you were and round up Naphtali and Zebulun, and then go to Mount Tabor, right in this region, right in that region right there. So he travels down, meets with her, and then she goes back up with him to round up these 10,000 troops and then take them to Mount Tabor. Okay, so that's where Barak lives, up there close to the Sea of Galilee, along the Sea of Galilee. So here's what we got. We got Deborah down here. Sisera is over here. There's Mount Tabor. Barak is over here. Yavin, the king, is over here. His general is over here. His chariot's over here. And Yael is in here, but we have not been introduced to her as yet. So here's Mount Tabor, 19th century image. It looks quite a bit different today than it did then, but it's really a hill. Really a hill. Can you imagine? Not that big. Can you imagine getting 10,000 people up there? They're going to be scrunched together. Now, I did that to show in contrast to what it looks like today. And you can see there's a lot of trees here and stuff like that. And there's a monastery up on top of it today. And during that Jesus' time, there was a Roman garrison up there. But it probably would have looked more like this without all the trees at that time. But 10,000 troops on the top of that hill there. So why, you think of going on the top of a hill, that's a good defensive position because they can't get to you. But he's actually going on offense here. So I will lead Sisera. The Lord says he's going to lead Sisera. So the Lord's taking part here. This is Deborah telling the judge, her general there, what to do. Barak. So I will lead Sisera, the commander of Yavin's army, and his chariots and his troops to the Kishon River and give him into your hands, into Barak's hands. So this is Deborah telling Barak what the Lord told her, that the Lord's going to take care of providing Sisera at the proper place and time for Barak to have a victory over him. Barak said to her, I will go with you. If you go with me, I will go. But if you don't go with me, I won't go. That sounds kind of unusual, doesn't it? Can you go with me? Why would Barak ask this of her? Why did the Lord go through Deborah to task Barak? Second one is easy. Chain of command. Deborah's the leader. She's the judge. So she calls up her general, Barak. Why would Barak ask this of her? To inquire of the... She was a prophet. Inquire of the Lord. We see this in Judges chapter 20. Israelites are ready for battle. They have Phinehas with them, the high priest. They ask, shall we go up again to fight against the Benjamites, our fellow Israelites, or not? The Lord responded, go, for tomorrow I will give them into your hand. So they know that because they have Phinehas. David, he has Abiathar, the priest, the son of Ahimelech, bring me the ephod. Abiathar brought it to him, and David inquired of the Lord, shall I go up there? Shall I pursue them? He says, pursue them, you certainly will overtake them and succeed and rescue. Even Saul, one of the first battles that Saul had, Samuel told Saul to go to this place, and in 7 days I will meet you and offer sacrifice and provide guidance to him. So Saul had Samuel, but Samuel delayed, and Saul offered sacrifice himself and got him into trouble. So the reason he wants her there is she's a prophet. He can inquire of the Lord. Deborah says, yes, I'll go with you. But because of the course you're taking, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. The honor will go to a woman. Barak didn't seem to care. Hey, we're oppressed. Does it matter who gets the credit? So they go back up north, and Barak summoned Zebulun and Naphtali and 10,000 men, and they, under his command, Deborah also went up there with him. And this summons all, this doesn't happen overnight. You don't have phones, so this probably took a week or more to summon all these people and get them to Mount Tabor. Now here's sort of a parenthetical. We wonder, well, why is this here? Now, Heber the Kenite had left the other Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, Moses' brother-in-law. Now, he's mentioned in the book of Numbers. So Moses' brother-in-law would have been the brother of his wife, Zipporah, and she was a Midianite. So he's not an Israelite, so he would have been a Midianite, and he pitched his tent by the great tree. Important things tend to happen by great trees. We think of Abraham and the oak at Mamre. So he pitched his tent by the great tree in Zaananim near Kadesh. Okay. So it's about 80 miles north, and we move on and wonder, well, what was that about? So when they told Sisera that Barak, the son of Ahinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor. Who told Sisera? We don't know. I like the ESV, when Sisera was told. But we know the Lord is in it, because he said he's going to bring Sisera to him. So whoever it was, the Lord was behind it. Had gone up to Mount Tabor. Sisera, so he's also got to do summoning his troops. Get those 900 chariots. Summon them from Harosheth Hagoyim. I got to move to the Kishon River, and all his men and 900 chariots fitted with iron. There's the chariots fitted with iron, drawn by horses. You don't want the chariots to be that heavy. So it's believed that the part of the chariot that was fitted with iron was the part that was most vulnerable, the axles. They had iron axles, perhaps iron in the wheels. Then Deborah said to Barak, go, this day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you? That's why Barak wanted her there. Remember, she said, go, told him to go there. Now she's telling him go. So he knows the Lord is with him. That is Deborah's purpose. So Barak went down Mount Tabor, and 10,000 men following him. At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and army by the sword, and Sisera got down from his chariot and fled on foot. So it looks like the chariots didn't help here. The Lord routed. The word is yahom. That means to throw into a confusion or panic. From Judges chapter 5, the Song of Deborah, it could also imply that the Lord had sent a rainstorm or something, and then the chariots got mired in the mud. But anyway, the chariots, which should have been a tactical advantage, were not a tactical advantage. We see that word routed also comes into play in Exodus when the Israelites are fleeing from Pharaoh and crossing the Red Sea. Exodus 14:24, during the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and the cloud at the Egyptian army. This was the army that was pursuing the Israelites up to the Red Sea, and he threw their army into confusion. So that's what that word means. So at Barak's advance, the Lord caused confusion with Sisera's troops and his chariots. Barak pursued the chariots and army as far as Harosheth-Hagoyim, and all of Sisera's troops fell by the sword. Not a man was left, except for Sisera, who's fled on foot to the tent of Yael, the wife of, now we got this guy. Yael was the wife of Heber the Kenite, who had moved up to this area. Like I said, he's of Midianite ancestry, because there was an alliance between Yavin, the king of Hatzor, and the family of Heber the Kenite. So Yael is fleeing, going to her place, or his place. He thought he was going to be seeing him, but he was not at home. Turns out he's not home, but his wife is there. So here's sort of an outtake. So Yavin is up here, but this is where the battle takes place, and it's where he gets defeated. So he has to go, he's on foot, and he's going all the way down here. He's following the topography here. So he goes down here and comes up here, and that's where Yael is. So he's running about 30 miles. Think about, that's farther than a marathon. He's trying to escape. And he knows, if I get there, I have a treaty with him. He's going to provide sanctuary. So he gets there, and Yael went out to meet Sisera and says to him, "Come, my lord, come right in," said the spider to the fly. Don't be afraid. You know, he doesn't come up, demand, "Hey, I got this alliance, you need to take it." No, she invites him in. She's very friendly. So he entered her tent. She covered him with a blanket. Think of the two spies going to see Rahab. She takes him up on the roof of her house, covers him with flax stalks. She's going to take care of him. So she covers him. He thinks, he's really tired. He's just run a marathon. He says, "I'm thirsty. Please give me some water." She opens the skin of milk, gives him some to drink, covered him up, gives him some milk, some warm milk so he can get to sleep. "Stand in the doorway," he asks her. "If someone comes by and asks you, 'Is anyone in there?' say no." Seems reasonable. Rahab did something similar. She sent the people of Jericho a different way. But Yael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and hammer and went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. He'd just run that marathon. She drove the peg through his temple into the ground, and he died. Well, at least it was a good, quick death while you're asleep. I think if I want to die in my sleep, maybe carbon monoxide poisoning. An easy way to die, right? So there it is. Tent peg. Are you going to ring the bell? Yep. It's not fair, the clock says. Just then Barak came by. He comes, so she shows Barak. There he is. He's dead. You don't have to go any further. There he is. Does that look like a realistic outfit for a soldier who's in battle? The tassels? They could have done a better job, but there's Sisera. Okay, on that day, God subdued Yavin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites, and the hand of the Israelites pressed harder and harder against Yavin, the king, until they destroyed him. Any thoughts on her actions? What she did?
I like her.
You like her? Well, people criticize you. She has a treaty with him, her husband, and generally women alone don't invite a man into their place. But you ever watch a Western? You watch several Westerns? What's the two worst things you can do? Steal a man's horse, and no matter how bad the man is, you never shoot him in the back. what Jael did was essentially, if she had a gun, she'd have probably shot him in the back. But, her action, she provided sanctuary. You think of Lot going to, or the visitors coming to Lot while he was in Sodom. He said, bring him out, bring him out. No, I can't bring him out. Here, take my daughters. There's the rule of hospitality. That was the strongest. Somebody comes into your house, you do not turn them over. Okay, the honors go to who? The woman. Certainly I will go with you, said Deborah. The honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera. Okay, the honor. The Lord gets some honor. The Lord will lead Sisera with his chariots and his troops and give him into Barak's hands. So the Lord has a big part to do with this. Yael, this is the song of Deborah, most blessed of women, be Jael, the wife of Heber, the Kenite, most blessed of tent-dwelling women. He asked for water, she gave him milk. She brought him curdled milk. She struck Sisera, crushed his head. She shattered and pierced his temple. At her feet he sank. He fell where he sank. There he fell dead. What about Sisera's mom? Jael song. Through the window peered Sisera's mother. Behind the lattice she cried out, where is his chariot? Why so long in coming? Why is the clatter of his chariots delayed? So Deborah has given some prophecy on his mother. Barak, the road on which you are going will not lead to your glory. Really? Really? Samuel's farewell address. But they forgot the Lord their God, and he sold them into the hand of Sisera, the commander of the army of Hazor. So who's going to get the glory? And the Lord sent Jerubbaal, that's Gideon, and Barak, and Jephthah, and Samuel, and delivered you out of the hand of your enemies on every side, and you lived in safety. Barak, Jephthah, Samuel. No Deborah, no Yael. This is Hebrews. And what more shall I say? For time would not let me tell you of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, and Samuel. So Barak is given the honor in Samuel's farewell address, and he's given the honor in Hebrews, whereas Deborah and Yael are not even mentioned. So what do you think? How do you react to the violence in the story? Throughout the Bible. So if you make a realistic movie on the Bible, cover everything, it'd be rated R. Think of The Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson. Rated R for violence. When the word of the Lord prompted Deborah, she responded with obedience. May her example inspire us toward deferential submission to God's instructions. Like Deborah, may we be encouraged. May we encourage others to take God at his word. Thoughts to remember. God spoke a faithful word through Deborah. I put this one. Even the bad guys have mothers that worry about him. And finally, in the case of Barak. This is from Harry Truman. It's amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who gets the credit. Barak said, I don't care who gets the credit. We need to get rid of this guy. So from Harry Truman, from A.W. Tozer, the glory of God always comes at the sacrifice of self. Next week, Hannah, the faithful supplicant. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon.
Okay.